In this video, I'll be discussing CRISPR Therapeutics, ticker symbol CRSP. I'll break down the significant news about their flagship drug CTX-001 being granted fast track status and why this is such a huge landmark. Secondly, we'll take a look at why their clinical trial results are so impressive. Then we'll look into their financials, and finally I'll reveal why I'm totally sold on this stock. You're watching Disruptive Discourse. I'm currently on their website and they've released this news. As you can see, it's September 22nd, 2020. They announced that the European Medicine Agency has granted priority medicine designation to CTX-001, an investigational autologous ex vivo CRISPR-Cas9 gene-edited therapy for the treatment of severe sickle cell disease. Now, all that basically means is that CRISPR Therapeutics created this drug called CTX-001. And this drug basically is a new biotechnological medicine therapeutic which is used for treating people with severe sickle cell disease. It uses a new state-of-the-art technology called CRISPR-Cas9, which basically edits genes to remove faulty or diseased genes and then replace them with something which is much more healthy. So that's what they've used in this particular scenario. They've gone into trials, and those trials were so successful that they've now been granted this priority medicine designation status for their drug CTX-001. Now, this isn't the first of the designations they've been granted. If we take a look further down in this article, and you will see here that they said that right here, this paragraph says, based on progress in this program to date, CTX-001 has been granted Regenerative Medicine Advanced Therapy RMAT, Fast Track and Orphan Drug designation from the US Food and Drug Agency. So basically, they've also been granted Fast Track designation by the Food and Drug Administration, by the FDA. So now they've got two fast track approvals from both the US and also from Europe. So you have to ask yourself, why have they been granted fast track for this product? But before we go into that, I think it's interesting to see what exactly this PRIME designation means. It says PRIME is a regulatory mechanism that provides early and proactive support to developers of promising medicines to optimize development plans and speed up evaluations so these medicines can reach patients faster. The goal of PRIME is to help patients benefit as early as possible from innovative new therapies that have demonstrated the potential to significantly address an unmet medical need. And those are the key words there. It's basically something that has been considered to provide an unmet medical need. So in other words, there isn't anything out there in the market at the moment which can actually solve the problem that this new drug can solve. And it's also considered to be an innovative new therapy. So it's something which is state of the art, it's brand new, it's innovative, and it's actually solving something that hasn't existed there before. So this has huge potential, given that it's now going into a market, especially in the drug sector, where there isn't an existing drug that can fulfill this very, very significant need, which is for severe sickle cell diseases. And if this gets through that process, and it gets through both the FDA process and the EU process in a fast-track manner, then the likelihood is that drugs will be produced at the end of it, and it can go into mass production and mass sale both in Europe and US and possibly worldwide in the future. So this really is a huge potential here. Now, just to give you a little bit of a background about this drug and about CRISPR Therapeutics and what they've done, I think it's important to just understand the trial that they've just undergone with regards to this drug and why it is that the FDA and the EU are so impressed by this drug that they've in fact given it this very fast track designation, because they aren't really easy to come by. They don't really give them out so easily. So let's have a look at this article here. So this article here is about this young lady called Victoria Gray, and she was the very first person to go into this trial. She has very severe sickle cell disease, and what it says at the very top here says, Victoria Gray, who has sickle cell disease, volunteered for one of the most anticipated medical experiments in decades, the first attempt to use the gene editing technique CRISPR to treat a genetic disorder in the United States. So she's the very first person to undergo this treatment, and it's to treat sickle cell disease for her. And what it then says in terms of how the treatment was given, so she was given the treatment, and after she was given the treatment, she was then sent home to recover, and after she recovered, she came back to have her blood analyzed to see whether or not the drug has actually made any changes or any improvements in relation to her illness. And this is what it says at the end in terms of the big reveal. It says, after a quick physical examination, Frangel shows Gray what she's been waiting for, the results of some of her blood tests. So look at this, says Frangel, smiling as he hands her a sheet of paper. This is very exciting. I'm super excited about your results today. Gray's CRISPR edited cells seem to be working. It looks like there are signs that you are starting to make fetal hemoglobin, which is very exciting for us. Just a bit of context, the fetal hemoglobin is the new gene, the healthy gene, which they've put back into her to replace her faulty blood cells. So the fetal hemoglobin, the younger blood cells that she had when she was younger, and they were able to find that, use CRISPR-Cas9 to take that out and put that in for her, and it seems to be working very well for her. Nearly half the hemoglobin in Gray's blood is now fetal hemoglobin, so she's now grown her fetal hemoglobin to cover pretty much half of all of her blood, which is more than the doctors think is needed to help alleviate the complications of sickle cell. So that even it's more than what she actually needs to be able to resolve this sickle cell disease. And the level of the protein seems to be continuing to rise. So it's continuing to grow. So this drug seems to have done more than it was actually anticipated to do, and it's surpassed it as well. So they then go on to say, oh my goodness, Gray says, the treatment also still seems safe so far. There have been no signs of any ill effects from the modified cells. In addition, there are clues that the cells could already be helping Gray. She hasn't needed any blood transfusions since she got the cells, hasn't had any pain attacks, and hasn't had to rush to the hospital for help. That's good, excellent, perfect, Frangel says. This is extremely encouraging. So I think it's really important to anyone interested in investing in this company should certainly take a listen to this her story, Victoria Gray's story. It's 22 minutes long. I'll link it in the description so you can have a listen to that. But it's really compelling story indeed. Now let's take a look at the stock itself, CRISPR Therapeutics. So I'm just going to quickly load up Seeking Alpha. I'm just going to type in CRISPR Therapeutics. So the The stock is currently trading at 80, 88, 81. About a year ago, it was trading at $48. So it's gone up about 76% since year to date. And the reality is that there's significant room for this stock to grow. And I say that simply because they haven't actually produced any drugs so far, and as they progress through this process, especially now with the second fast track being granted to them, and they proceed through that, once they're successful, that's certainly going to have a positive impact on the stock price. And once they start to produce drugs, again, that's going to have a really positive impact on the stock price going forward, and it's going to obviously start generating significant income, which in turn is going to be beneficial to shareholders who currently hold the stock or who may buy the stock sooner rather than later. Of course, the company doesn't make any profits at the moment, so in terms of profits, it doesn't have any at the moment. In terms of revenue, apologies, it doesn't have any at the moment. Most of the revenues you can see here for December 2019, that's roughly 289 million. Those revenues are actually from the deals that CRISPR Therapeutics have signed with other companies. So for example, it signed a co-production deal or a collaboration deal in relation to CTX-001 with Vertex Pharmaceuticals, and I think you may recall from the beginning of the video that the press release was in relation to CRISPR Therapeutics and Vertex, because they both signed a co-production agreement, and that's why they were both listed as on that press release. So they generate, so far the income has been generated from other companies investing and also paying to buy licensing to be able to license and use their drugs as well. So this really is a huge opportunity. It's probably the best time to get in, one of the best times to get into this stock. Obviously, if you got into the stock earlier, then that would be much better. But even at this stage, in my opinion, it's not too late to get into the stock. But again, this is not financial advice. I'm not making a recommendation. You shouldn't go on just my recommendation. You should of course do your own research, but interestingly, I think it'll be interesting to see what analysts think about this stock. So if we go to ratings and we look at Wall Street analysts, you can see CRISPR Wall Street analysts are rating this as bullish, which means that they obviously think that it's a buy at the moment, which is good. They've got a price target of $96.69 for the stock. Obviously, as I said, it's currently trading at $88. So, and as I said, there's still a lot of room for this stock to grow. Now, there is one other investor who I hold a lot of regard for, who's also invested in this stock, and that is Cathie Wood. Now, just going to go over to Cathie Wood's website, which is ARK Invest, and this, I think, obviously because it's genomics, it will be in the genomics revolution. If we have a look at the ETF, the Genomics Revolution ETF, if we explore that and we take a look under the fund holdings, we can see that CRISPR Therapeutics, as you can see, is number 2, and that number 2 basically means on a weighted average it is the second highest stock they've invested in as of 26th of June, or June 26th, if you want to say it the American way. That obviously shows how much trust and faith that Cathie Wood has in that particular stock, that it's the second highest stock in the Genomic Revolution ETF. And for me, that's good enough. If it's good enough for Cathie Wood, then it's definitely good enough for me. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you liked it, then please, of course, like the video so that it can be more visible to other people, so that other people can get just as much benefit as you may have got from this video. And if you want to hear more about these sorts of stocks, where I think my philosophy is finding stocks which are disruptive in nature, and also to find them at an early stage where people have the opportunity to invest in them rather than finding about them way too late. So I'm really active in searching for really disruptive innovations, and also at the right time, not just finding disruptive innovations at the wrong time, but at the right time when it's still possible to get involved and get into those stocks. So hopefully you like this video, and of course please subscribe. Peace.